N2C lesson, we looked at scene 5 in particular, but also Carol's development as a character. So from the first scenes we can tell that she's already lost it because she's tried to commit suicide. But as the play progresses, we spoke about how we wanted her breakdown to be more gradual but show how it was almost tearing her apart. Scene 5 is sort of more of the midpoint of the play, especially in Carol's scenes, because they end a bit earlier because of her suicide. So in scene 5, it's the interaction. Initially, it's the interaction with Carol with 3 different characters. So initially it's with the nurse that's taken away the baby after she's just had Anna. Then it's the interaction with Emma, which is for most of the scene. Emma is her sister-in-law, John's sister. There's an interesting relationship between them two that I've discussed before, but I'll go through it a little bit again. And then John towards the end. This bit is also, scene 5 is when Anna is doing her monologue, and Carol is repeatedly saying a baby. When doing this N2C lesson, we looked at how the breakdown, we could play around with emotion and how strongly she showed this. So when initially beforehand we'd done it so that everything was quite internal with Carol, Chip told them to do it so that it was more external, showing a physical breakdown, but it was distressing, it was exhausting, more physical tears and the breathing pattern. They were sort of freaking out, and we played about with this and what it looked like and what effect it gave. He told them to freak out throughout the whole of the scene, which was quite hard on the actors, but I think they did it really well. I think this showed how she was constantly having this internal sort of struggle, and maybe linking back to the idea that prenatal stress and trauma that might have resulted in her, downfall again, because her emotions sort of go up and down as Carol, and the interactions between scenes later on, you sort of see her a bit more calm again, but I think it's about her interactions with the people. So her interaction with Emma, I'm playing Emma, so I can talk about that directly. When in the beginning of the scene with the nurse, it showed her reacting really badly, and there's a whole section where she is just standing on her own and saying no dialogue, no words or anything, it's just her, and she's shouting, and she's having this sort of beforehand was all internal sort of like breakdown, but he made it all external. I think it was quite hard, and it showed quite a juxtaposition from the other scenes going on, because there's this light-hearted scene where Jamie and Anna first meet, and it's quite bubbly, quite cute, and you can tell that there's something going on between those two. And on the other side, it's not, the other side is Bonnie and Tim. So Bonnie and her co-worker Tim, she goes to his party, and it sort of shows the awkwardness. I think it shows a juxtaposition from Anna and Carol scenes, but then the effect of that on Bonnie's scenes. So Bonnie is the effect of those two, which I think is the whole theme of the play. So looking back to what we actually was exploring, I think this affected the audience differently because they were more drawn to Carol's side, whereas before Carol was sort of not being viewed as really, because she was emotionally breaking down internally. There was no noise or anything. I think it became hard for an audience to watch. I think it was good because it showed how Carol was breaking down and showed the more physical side, and I think it created a good juxtaposition and made it interesting for the audience. But also I think it took away from the Anna's scene and the Bonnie scene, especially the Anna's scene, which I think is a really key moment in her life, because it shows her in a different light. It shows her happy and interacting with Jamie happily, and I think it was being Carol so high with emotions throughout the whole piece definitely took away from Anna's monologue and Anna's bits. So I think to improve on this, we probably have Carol showing some of these emotions definitely through the beginning, in the silence when it's not as important for Anna and Jamie and Bonnie and Tim to be talking. The relevance of it's not important, but to have that high emotion throughout the whole thing, it sort of makes it less shocking to the audience, because you're just constantly thinking this person's having a freak out, and it takes away from the other scenes. Whereas I think if you had it at key moments, maybe key moments link into the other bits, so when Anna is talking about something that she finds quite difficult, or you see her internally struggling, it's a projection of her internal struggle into Carol's external struggle that she's physically showing the audience. The same with Bonnie. So trying to find that moment in the play in that scene would be quite a good key thing for us to investigate now we've looked at the high levels of emotion. Following on from that, when Mia's Emma come into the scene, it became quite difficult to act alongside the person who was playing Carol because the emotions were so high. It became sort of awkward, and I didn't quite know how to act in the same way as before to react to Carol, because she says things like, "You look radiant, you look so well." And Mr. Chip said, "Look like you're not really paying any attention, I guess." It's sort of an awkward situation, but I found it really difficult to sort of say words like that whilst not looking at her, whilst not paying attention. When she was such high levels of emotion, it became quite difficult to sort of act alongside.